The Genshin Travail trailer is a preview of every single nation that we will go to, and each nation is given a few lines giving a very vague summary of each nation's story. With Sumeru's release coming closer and the current information we have from the 2.8 update, I believe I can give my full prediction on how Sumeru's story will go. This video, I'll look into the lines given to describe Sumeru and give my own interpretation on what it means. Let's look into the first line given.
The god of wisdom's enemy is wisdom itself, and the oasis of knowledge is a mirage in the desert of ignorance.
Originally, I believe that the oasis of knowledge being a mirage is supposed to mean that knowledge is a lie. This is easily backed up by the fact that Sumeru is described as a desert of ignorance, which directly translates into Sumeru lacking knowledge. Thanks to the 2.8 Golden Apple Archipelago, we actually have a new perspective on Genshin's concept of a mirage. In this event, we learn that the cause of the mirages on these islands are because of a Fatui machine that is meant to imitate a god's power of controlling mirages or dreams. Even in the dialogue, the traveler outright wonders if there is a mirage archon. Now, zeroing on the mirages on the islands, they seem to reflect the dreams or the possible ambitions of the respective characters, Kazuha, Xinyan, Fischl, and Mona. Not just that, but it turns out the power that the machine was attempting to imitate belongs to Kusanali, which is backed up at the end of this event's story, saying that she felt a certain familiarity with the power affecting the islands, which is why she observed. This will mean that Kusanali will be the god of mirages, but she's actually not. Mirages are actually the result of the attempt at imitating her power, and throughout the entire event, they always stated that this archipelago feels like a dream, with mirages appearing everywhere. Kusanali is actually the god of dreams rather than mirages. She even comments on the dreams of the other characters you experience. Now, bringing this concept back into the statement, the oasis of knowledge being a mirage doesn't mean the fact that the knowledge is a lie. It is actually meant to point out that this oasis of knowledge is actually the goal. You can even say ambition of the sages in the desert of ignorance. And of course, this is backed up by Yamiko's statement at the end of Inazuma's main Archon quest, which states that Sumeru is the land of the god of wisdom, where the quest of wisdom and knowledge is never ending. But I believe that this is not how the entire nation of Sumeru is, just the desert area. As shown in the Genshin teaser showcasing Sumeru, it is not just a desert, but rather it is split into a rainforest and a desert. In fact, this line stated by Kusanali in the initial teaser at the end of the 2.8 special program.
If only the desert sand and the jungle ring could get along like this, that would be perfect.
Hints at the two sides possibly being in conflict. This is likely because of the city in this desert of ignorance is in constant pursuit of knowledge. It is like a mirage, their ambition. But why is that the case in a nation that is in constant pursuit of knowledge and wisdom? That will be because of the price of said pursuit of wisdom, which is explained by the line, the god of wisdom's enemy is wisdom itself. So far, we would know that Kusanali is the god of wisdom, flowers, and dreams. But consider this, what if Kusanali is not known as the god of wisdom to her people, specifically the people in the desert? Let's first look at the difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge is always acquainted with facts or truths, typically gained by research, by books, or other means. On the other hand, wisdom is defined as having the power of discernment and judging properly as to what is true or right, and it's gained from experiences over time. Both seem similar, but the one key difference: research could be done quicker depending on the skill, while experience is something that takes time. Even their synonyms, despite the two words being synonyms of each other, are also different. Knowledge is associated with the education or ability, but wisdom is associated with foresight or judgment. Keep this in mind for later. Going back to the sages of the Sumeru desert, Yamiko states that their endless pursuit of knowledge and wisdom leads them to do questionable actions such as knowledge being treated as a resource. And with this in mind, going by the Dane's statement of the god of wisdom's enemy being wisdom, could hint towards that this endless pursuit of wisdom could lead to the downfall. To explain why, we need to look at the second sentence. The next line stated is,
In the city of scholars, there is a push for folly, yet the god of wisdom makes no argument against it.
My original guess was that the city of scholars, likely the capital city of Sumeru, had people being affected by the sages' push for folly, which likely means that the spread of lies and deception within Sumeru. Kusanali, the god of wisdom, only stands by and watches this happen. Whether she was willingly doing it or wasn't aware, we didn't know before. Now, remember the pursuit of wisdom and knowledge and how it led to ridiculous outcomes? The reason why this pursuit is a problem is because it leaves Sumeru very vulnerable for possible insurrections or even outside third parties to easily influence them, such as the Fatui. And luckily, we have two things to back this claim. Leben, during the limited Marvelous Merchandise event, stated that he quickly left after seeing some strange folks who were described to have an ominous air surrounding them. In addition, right before 2.8's release, we had the Genshin teaser, Winter Nights, Lasso, focusing on the Harbingers attending Signora's funeral, and ending with Totoro standing in front of a burning tree followed by Kale waking up from what appears to be a dream. Said dream being the same scene of the Totoro that we saw. Not just that, but Totoro states,
"He's busy with a little experiment in blasphemy."
Zeroing on the phrase, experiment in blasphemy. The definition of blasphemy is the act or offense of speaking sacrilegiously about God or sacred things. Now, even in my original prediction, I stated that in the Bible, folly refers to someone who lacks the proper fear or respect for God. Now everything starts connecting. The endless pursuit of wisdom leaves Sumeru vulnerable, hence why the god of wisdom's enemy is wisdom. This vulnerability allows the Fatui to easily take over while hiding. The reason why this Sumeru desert was known as the Desert of Ignorance wasn't because of the lack of knowledge, but the constant requirement of knowledge. Take a look at the Sumeru Academia, known as the most prestigious institute in all of Teyvat, that takes advantage of its students and has them constantly do research, their end goal being the oasis of knowledge that they will never reach since it's a mirage. Thanks to the Fatui infiltration, the push for folly, the spread of deception could easily happen to strengthen their control and influence over Sumeru. But if this is going on, what is Kusanali, the Dendro Archon, doing? Letting this all play out? Nothing, because that is all she can do, unfortunately. See, originally, I was confused on why Kusanali could not do anything. Was she being influenced by the sages? No, since the sages were being used by the Fatui, and I highly doubt Kusanali is this naive despite being the youngest Archon. This will mean that Kusanali can outright do nothing despite limited situation, and why? Because she's the youngest Archon, and I have proof of this as well. Going back to the Golden Apple Archipelago, once you complete Mona's story, which is the last character story before the final act, her cutscene states this.
There was a transparent bird made of crystal. It was beautiful and fragile and could sing the most beautiful songs. But since mortals couldn't see it, they believed it to be a trick. How could a transparent bird possibly exist, let alone sing?
Now, this is meant to symbolize how people perceive divination. The bird symbolizes the truth that no one wants to hear. But oddly enough, the use of a bird to symbolize is actually foreshadowing to Kusanali's role in the story of Sumeru's Archon quest. And this is actually backed up by the end of Golden Apple Archipelago when she says this.
Don't worry, I won't hurt you. I'm just a little bird that sometimes flies by these islands, and am now watching you from far, far away. I just so happened to sense a power here that has something to do with me. I was curious, so I landed on the beach to quietly watch everything that took place on these islands.
Kusanali refers to herself as a little bird, just like how the bird in Mona's story is believed to be a trick, a lie. Because she's the youngest Archon, she has little influence when it comes to ruling or protecting Sumeru. Not just that, but she has no choice but to remain in hiding because of the possible consequences of revealing herself, the main one being that her nose will be taken. This could easily be backed up by the description of the Dendro slime, both being forced to hide. Kusanali even teases this at the very end, stating,
When that time comes, I think you'll be able to recognize me.
and by recognize, she meant by voice, not appearance.